folks, I'm L.A. Little, and this is your daily TA wrap. Where we take a look at these markets and we do it from a neoclassical perspective and ask ourselves what happened today. And what might it tell us about tomorrow? You know, I do a show 4 times a week, Monday through Thursday, live at 9 o'clock Eastern Time here from the base of the Rocky Mountains. Hey folks, this week's going to be a short week. We got Thanksgiving holidays. I won't be, of course, doing a show on Thanksgiving, and I may not do a show Wednesday. Market's going to be, I think the market is closed half a day. I haven't looked, but it usually is. So even if it isn't, the volumes will drop off, and there probably won't be anything interesting to talk about. So we may just have 2 days a week this week. With this holiday shortened season, and I'll have a little time to spend with the family. So with that, let me get started here today. What did we do? Well, we did some more up. It's gotten to be quite a habit, as we know. And if we pull it over here, closing quotes, flip this around, so the Dow was up, well, when I say it was up, we had flat. I mean, I can't see anything but flat here. Gold's off the board. Gold was up $8 today. Dollar was up slightly. We're in holiday mode here, and you can see it here on the boards. Let's pop into the charts though and see what really took place. It was an up day out of the gate. They pushed this thing up to start with, but then they just totally ran out of juice, and you can see it here in the S&P. If you're looking at it on the weekly, we've had a long stretch here coming off this bottom, long straight stretch up, and it's just running out of gas. I mean, what else can you say about it? You can see it here at the top. This is kind of just telling us it's running out of gas. So the price points tonight, that's an over-under. So you go over, you go back under. Is this an extended move? Not really. I mean, because you actually had a break, a little pullback, 3-day pullback, now a 3-day push up with a little close underneath it. Volume's tailing off. This does set up the possibility of some sort of small retrace tomorrow, though. And I suspect we'll probably get one. If we look at the Dow Jones, even the Dow Jones, though, Dow Jones doesn't want to give anything up. Up again today. It does a doji at the highs today. You see that price yesterday, 1606.8. So you closed over with the doji. That still looks like it can come back a little bit though. So this, doji at the top, you can go either way, right? It doesn't have to come back, but yeah, it could. You don't know until the next day with those. They're not clear signals on a candlestick basis. If we go look at the NASDAQ, the broad NASDAQ, remember it got over the highs on Friday as well. And tonight it comes back a little bit. Volume's a little bit heavier. It's still closed over, so that one's not giving you any kind of signal of a pullback, although the NDX is. The NDX goes over the top. Now remember, the NDX was trying to break out. So the high on the breakout, 34.2920, it got up as high as 37, closes at 34.27. So it closes just underneath, right? That's a failed breakout. Volume slightly lighter. So that's the only one giving us a clear signal tonight. And that one is saying, hey, that's a failure at the top. Going to get some sort of a small retrace out of it probably. So I would expect something on the way back down here. How far can it get? Probably not anything more than that. It's just not gonna come down that much, and it actually has to get back into this bar a little bit more to even get that. You got a swing point high over here, and that was already broken here. Yeah, I just don't see much retrace, but you could get, even today you broke to what, 34.37 from yesterday's 34.27 close. That was 10 higher. You could easily get 10 points back into this, back into swing point high. That's 34.18. I don't see that as difficult. That wouldn't be but 10 points, right? And you could get back into the high You could even get 20 points. So that one's suggesting to come back, and it's the only one suggesting it. Everything else, they got little small failures at the highs, but they're not extended. Russell looks like it wants to come back to a retest regen. Those retest regens would actually be bullish here, and so if it were to do it now, it actually would be a better case. On the Russell now, it could go deep on a retest regen, right, and still be doing the retest. The Bard's retesting is here. If we look at let's go back to the SPX. I don't think, let's see where it could come back to. Yeah, there's just no good spot here. There's really nothing. I mean, all you have is this low now, which is almost to the retest regen. So nothing there. Let's see if the sectors are telling us the same thing before we get carried away with this thought. So let me pop over there. Okay, let's start with the transports. Now the transports, we're trying to get back to the highs. And I'm going to pull this in. I don't need this entire thing, so let's just pull this back in so we can see tighter. So we got a high here of 29.63. We didn't quite get to it. We're doing 174 back into 223. And you got another little doji up here. You may test the top tomorrow, but this one actually looks like it wants to pull back just a little bit. Semiconductors have been weak. Let's see what they did. Just still in there. Can't do anything. And I haven't looked at the SOX in a while because it trades thinner. I switched over to the semis, but the semis are more heavily weighted towards Intel. But this one's telling you almost the same thing, so not much difference there. XLB, we've had a lot of weakness in the metals lately. Minerals and metals, and yeah, that's kind of what this one looks like. Coming back with a little bit of volume. Well, the bar to watch here is the November 8th bar. See if you come into it with any volume. That looks like it wants to retrace. So far, XLB, IYT both look like they want to retrace. I know the XLE traded very heavy today. We had oil down today. And volume comes out again. Every time this kind of thing comes back, the volume comes out of it, so that's not a good sign. That one wants to retrace some more. Let me look at the oil and see what it ended up doing. Didn't break. Remember last night we were talking about this, testing, and if it didn't break, it probably was the sign that this is washed out. Well, this is washed out. When you can't break it down on news like that happened last night, right, that's a perfect opportunity to sell it down. And they were unable to break out the lows. So that tells me the oil trade back to the north probably makes sense here. So retrace is possible so far on the transports, the materials, the energy. How about the XLF, the leader? Stayed over the high, had about the same amount of volume. That one isn't giving us any sign yet. Let's see. So that one still can go higher. XLI, one of the other leaders. Oh, that one failed now. And it fell at the high, 50.40. Yeah, it did. Had a little bit more volume, though. Wow. So you get a failure, but you got more volume. So that says you can still hang up here. Yeah, it still can hang up here. Trying to see if there was an ABCD structure here in place. So this one was 49.52. Yeah, it didn't get a lower low though. It really isn't one until you get up there. So I don't know. That one doesn't look like it wants to pull back still. XLK. And now this is interesting. So the NDX goes up and tests the highs. This one can't. Huh. Well, that looks like it wants to come back the way it's trading. It's just trading heavy. So maybe a little retrace going even there. XLP, and that one wants to pull back. XLV, I skipped XLU. I'm tired of looking at it. I'm sure it didn't go anywhere. Okay, this yesterday was not yesterday, Friday. This was the strength, right? Big breakout, big push. The ABCD structure here is done. As a matter of fact, the double one. You had one from here to there and back up, right? That takes you to about that price point. And you just had a second one in here, a nested one, and that one just completed as well. So this looks to me like it's done, and now you get a doji up here. I wouldn't be chasing this thing. That looks to come back. Yeah, it just sets up potentially another ABCD, but yes, it wants to come back, and the bigger one is finished. Now that's the first one that is finished on the larger structure, right? We got many of these with the larger ABCD structures in place. You know, if I go back to, say, XLF, for example, right? You have an ABCD structure here on the XLF in place. So if you've got this larger one, up to here, back down, and then up, right? It takes you up to around 22. And now you've got a smaller one that takes you almost up to that inside of it. XLV is the only one I've seen so far complete them all, or be right at it if it's not completed. It looks pretty close. XLY, so that says that there's one sector that's not going to push you that much more anymore. And that's important to realize. This is a failure at the highs. 6509. Yeah, that's a failure on volume and price. That one wants to come back. So if I counted that right, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, looks like about 6 of them out of the 10. And the SMHs aren't going up anymore, and the XLF is struggling to get higher, as is the XLI. And the XLU, okay, we'll look at it, but I don't think it went anywhere. Probably just sit there. Yeah, kind of looks like the semis. So, sector-wise, echoing the NDX, a little small retrace. And in this market, I don't think you can expect anything more than a little small retrace. I mean, that's going to be pretty hard to get. Ox markets, we had a bounce setting up in gold today. Now, gold was trying to hammer lower, and as it did, it started down this morning. You can see the big white candle. So it started at lower lows, reversed, and all day long worked higher. That just tells you that this thing's beat up and played out again, just like the market's beat up on the way up. It's just tired. 119.31, you gap down to 119.13. The open was 119.18, and then you ended up closing at 120.50. That's a pretty good reversal back up. This thing to me looks like now that you finally got some sort of buying support come into it, right? And some sort of an indication that it doesn't want to die. Now it wants to come back up and retest regen. And a lot of times they set up this way, which is why the retest regen is so important. Your swing point low is over here, right? So that's the bar that you're retesting and trying to regenerate lower off of. But your big bar is this one. It's not just this, right? It's the breakdown bar and the breaking bar, right? I mean the prior swing point. So the breaking bar and the prior swing point, you look at the volumes on both of them, they're both heavy. So any kind of a push up here is going to find a lot of resistance right up into this area. So expect that to give it a lot of grief as it tries to bounce, and that's not that much farther. You know, another $5, $6, probably $10 max. That will be the test. If you get back over there, well, then something's going on. If you don't, then all you're doing is retesting and you're regenerating lower, and those swing point lows are on the weeklies are I think they're like 114, right? We're trading at 119, so that's another $50 on gold. So this will be a very important test on the bounce. Let's take a look at the metal stocks, GDX. Okay, some decent volume down here today. And that's echoing the same thing gold's wanting to do. That is it wants to come back in and do a retest regen into this area. So your swing point low is here. So I'll move back into there. That's your breakdown bar as well. Top of that can take you all the way up to here. So this is the area that it's shooting for. Again, same thing as gold. Not that far, but far enough to be interesting. How about GDXJ? These guys have been hit more than the others. GDXJ. This is the small cap miners, and the small cap miners really took a beating. Volume expanded. Look at the volume expansion on this one. So a lot of times when you see this is the one I really want to watch then, because that one really has the volume came out of it. So retest regen here, you're testing double lows. That's why you had the huge volume, right? Because there's a lot of stops there. So the push back up into this area will be the key area. Same sort of thing, same sort of test. Let's see what bonds did. Bonds. Yeah, it's still a little bounce, no volume. And they still can't break it down though. I haven't looked at the ag sector in a while. Let's see what these are doing. So this is the big, broad ags. This has been on a bearish move for I don't know how long. How about the one that's a little bit more concentrated in the grains, the DBA? Same sort of picture. This one has a little bit more of a bottoming to it on a weekly chart, but not that much difference. How about, I already looked at oil. UNL, natural gas, had a big bounce last week, and it continues it. Natural gas, it's fascinating how they do these things, because they flush everybody out. Here's the weekly as well. They flush everybody out of this thing, right, on that swing point low, and then they take it straight back up. When I see that sort of action and this big volume spike, it just tells me they blew out a lot of stops down there. And a lot of times when you finally blow them out and you've been doing like you have here, right, in putting in a bottom basically, that could be the what do you call it? The throwing the baby out with the bath kind of thing. You just kind of throw the towel in. That could be the throw the towel in move, because here on a weekly you can see that volume wasn't there. On the daily it looks huge. On the weekly, no volume. So that may have been the bottom finally. I'll have to watch this one. It's going to get interesting again. All right, let's see if you guys got any questions. And let me see if any questions were texted in to me or emailed to me. Let's see here. Text messages. Don't see any text. Okay, cool. And emails. Okay, I have one email asking about GM. Let's take a look at GM, see what GM looks like. So General Motors. Maybe we'll look at GM and Ford at the same time. Let's see what they both look like. Matter of fact, let's take the whole group. GM, Ford, and Tesla, of all things. Since I have a little bit of time. Overseas markets really about the same today. They were all higher again, so nothing there. Let's start with GM since that's where the question was. And the question is where might you buy this thing? Well, let's see. You didn't give me a time frame. Usually it'd be best if you give me a time frame so I know what we're working off of here. Alright, well, this doesn't look bad. You know, GM's had nice spikes up on volume and little retraces, not too much volume on the retraces. If I'm looking for an area to buy it and I'm looking short term, I would be looking off of these two bars, big wide price spread, high volume bar. That's the key one. And so this area right down here is the ideal spot, right in there. It may not give it to you, and as you can see, it's already stuck on this higher one. That's why price is so sticky right up here. But that kind of looks like it's going to get back down into this area. That would be the place. If I'm looking on the weekly, your big spike up is here, and you got another one there, right? So if you take the congruence of those two back into this area, that's about where that support zone is drawn. So that looks to be about, the high is 35.49, and the price point over here we were looking at was 36. So anywhere from about 35.5 to about 36.5 would be a nice spot. Let's see what Ford looks like. Ford doesn't look anything like that. Ford's in some sort of a large consolidation sideways range up here, right? You just got a very tight range at the top. Of course, when you pull it out and you look at it on a daily, it's a big one, right? But up here you can see how tight it is. Big long move up. This has had its move, right? The risk points here is a swing point low, which looks to me to be this swing point low. You got another one right there. So if this does start to drop, be careful. So Ford, I'd be careful with. And let's look at old Tesla, one of the hot flyers that came back to earth. Can't get going. This is what happens. I did an article, not an article, but I did a video on it back in this area and talked about, you know, if you had money in this thing, don't expect it to let you out easy. You're just going to have to get out. And that was back when it was somewhere up here breaking. And you can see it doesn't give you an easy exit. Probably not going to give you an easy exit. The buy point on this one is still back in this area down here. You can see all of these bars. That price zone right there is where you want to try to grab it. Okay, FXI, read your video. Good place to buy? I don't know. Let's see. Let's throw FXI in here and see what it looks like. I did pull back today. I was looking at China itself, or actually the Hong Kong index, which it's based off of, and it kind of just hung up there today. Couldn't do anything. And this came back. This came back compared to the Hong Kong. Yeah, I think this is a good spot. You know, this is coming right back into an area that you'd like to get it, right? You got a high here, and you got this bar and this bar, right? That's your congruent bars. That's where this zone is coming from here, and it's right back into it. So yeah, this is a good spot. Now recognize, if this thing does turn and work higher, that's going to be a huge ABCD structure, depending on how deep it comes, right? That could be a very big structure on the way up. Now, having said that, this thing could come all the way back to this gap, though, and if you did that, the structure looks a lot different. So until it actually gives us a C point, you don't know, right? You don't know how far it's going to go. But either way, it's still, you know, that's still big numbers. Assuming it does an ABC on the way up. That's an assumption. We don't know that yet. But yeah, this is a nice spot. Okay, folks, you know, the calendar here favors the market. It's holiday season. It's end of year. You know, it's calendar-wise, you know, in terms of seasonals, everything favors it. So it's hard to think that you're going to get much of a pullback, you know, even though we're seeing some sectors telling us that and the index failing. So when you get a pullback, if you get one, it's another one to potentially try to buy. And if you're underinvested and you're shooting for that end of year run, which is still quite possible in my mind, then you want to try to use that to your advantage. It always depends on your time frame and what you're trying to do. It's very hard to short this thing here, but you know, if you're quite long and you wanted to take a little short on you know, this move tonight, that was a possibility. You know, there's always trades out there. I mean, the GDX for today, for example, was a good bounce trade because you had divergence between the gold market and the gold stocks. So you can pick up on something all the time, and you can always make trades out of things. What you can't do, though, is you can't forget what you're trying to do. If you're playing a retrace, a little small retrace trade here tonight, then you got to remember you're playing a small retrace trade, and you got to take a small gain if you get it. The simpler thing to do is just ignore it, right? Because this market still is very bullish. ABCD structures, projections 1860, right? You got another one here that takes you up to about 1819. I wouldn't be surprised to see it actually do it this week. So there are structures in place that say just stay long. So unless you're gonna, you know, trade fast and furious, you know, the best thing to do is just ignore what's happening, just stay with what you're doing. That's it for tonight. Have a great one. I appreciate you being there. You tell a friend, tell two. Have a great Thanksgiving week. I'll see you tomorrow. We'll wrap it up for the week tomorrow. And have a great one. Good night, folks.